Welcome to say hello to action. How you guys doing today? Hi, Latoya. How you doing?
Hi, I'm doing really well. Let's say hello to Action.
We are on our ninth episode. I am so proud of us. We've made it through. We're almost close to our season, well, our first season, right? Many
Yes.
more to come.
hmm
And today is just about saying hello to action. I think that this is going to be a very, very powerful episode just because there are so many different ways to say hello to action. And sometimes we just don't know where to start or how to start, right?
hmm
But I think it's going to be important for us to discuss the ways that we've been able to say hello to action and, you know, probably help somebody else out there who's kind of figuring out how to say hello to action,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, I think that's really important. I feel like a lot of times we have ideas and we just don't know how to start. Where do we go? Who do we turn to? Like, how do
Hmm.
we get this business off the ground? How do I start my career in teaching or my career
Hmm.
as a hairdresser? How do I start? How do I say hello? And because of that lack of not knowing where to go, a lot of times we give up on our dreams or we just don't do it. We just don't do anything about it. So let's just go through what we've done to kind of like accomplish some of the things that we've accomplished.
Yeah.
So we're kind of been interviewing each other. So tell me, when you started, when you had an idea to write your book,
Hmm.
what did you do, or what was the process to getting started?
Oh my gosh, especially for the first book, Self-Care Tips Fit for a Queen.
hmm
Um, I think one thing that motivated me to get started was I actually dreamed it. I had
hmm
a dream about writing this book, and as soon as I woke up, I said, you know what? Let me write down all of the tips that I'm thinking of that could help somebody, you know? And it's so funny because while that dream happened, I just stood up right away and took action and wrote down the things that I was thinking of.
hmm
Now, who does that? Like, who gets up, wakes up after a dream and says, you know what? Let me write the tips that I just had. And it's so funny because I automatically thought of the cover being a black woman. You know, I've never had a book that really had a black woman on the cover. And that was like one of my motivations was like, okay, I thought about myself, I thought about my family. And I was like, you know what? I need a self-care book for a black woman, not
hmm
just people who, like I felt like some of the books didn't relate to me and didn't look like me,
Okay.
right?
So you
Yeah.
had this idea, you wrote it down, you
Yeah.
jumped up, but
Yeah.
what did you do to create the book? Where did you go? What did you think about? What was going on in your mind when you're like, okay, I want to
So
become an author?
immediately I had written down all of my tips in a book first. That was what I did first. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna write all my tips down in a notebook. And I wrote it from 1 to 24, right? I believe I had 24 tips in there. I have to check again. It's been a while, but I wrote them 1 to 24 and right away I got online. I opened my computer. I was like, okay, it's time to go. Started writing on Microsoft, but then I realized that I could also use Canva to create my book, which was like such a great asset and tool for me because I love to use Canva. And I think that that's something that a lot of people don't know that they can do is actually create a book through Canva, right? And it's like you said before, it's just about knowing some stuff, right?
Yeah.
If you don't know, you can't do, right?
For
And
research, I guess the
yeah,
first thing is about that when you want to say hello to action, you know, to research. Put the
yeah,
question up in Google.
yeah,
Where to go to find how do I start a business?
exactly.
Honestly, you would be surprised by what you receive.
How
Yeah.
do you create a business plan? How do you do this, right? How much is it going to be? All of
hmm
these different things is what, allowed me to say, okay, this is how much a book is going to cost me, how much it's going to print to cost, how much I'm going to be able to make. It's a whole process, but I think it's really fulfilling and I think it's absolutely worth it because
hmm
I've been able to like showcase my book so much that it's made me literally in a way not famous but very well known.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think that that's something that I wouldn't trade for the entire world.
hmm
Because of that first book there, I was able to people were able to really know my name,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And what about you? What was the process like? Especially because you've published so many different books
Yeah,
and
how to say hello to action. I think what was really pivotal in me actually saying hello to action, because it's not like I didn't have ideas before. I
Mhm.
had tons of ideas. I had books that were written, but
Yeah,
I just did not know how to say hello to action. I did not know where to go. And I
yeah, yeah.
think if it's anything that we've learned is that a lack of knowledge over time,
Hmm.
over all of our episodes, we saw that a lack of knowledge is really what limits us to take
Yeah,
action. We just don't know where to go, how to move, how much it costs, who to ask, where are
yeah,
the resources, should I do this or should I, do I have a mentor? Having a mentor, knowing someone in your community or someone you can go around to ask a
yeah,
question, can you help me? Can you guide me? That's important. That can help to say hello to action. And I did not have that. But I
yeah.
think what really made me say hello to action was my why. I had a
Hmm.
why. I had a reason why I desperately needed to say hello to action. And that was because of my son. So when I gave birth to my son and I saw what was going on with COVID
Yes,
and limitations, that jobs that you thought were, kind of secure and guaranteed were
yeah,
now showing that it was not secure and guaranteed. I had to look
exactly.
to myself. I wanted to look to myself as independent, to be able to provide for my family, for myself, despite, government jobs, etc., like that.
Yeah.
But my why was so big that I wanted to show my son that he can do it. And when you have your why guide, that is
Hmm.
such a huge drive, a compass in
Yeah,
directing you consistently to say hello to action. That
yeah,
why will get you started, it will keep you going, and it will get you to the end. It has to
exactly.
be rooted in something meaningful that is
Yeah.
going to impact your future. And my why, my son, is what really made me say hello to action that time of the year. And
Hmm.
once I did that, I did the next step, like you were saying, the research, the
Yeah.
the trying to figure out what it is like. How can I get this done? And I started basically doing online stores and creating my social media platforms for women empowerment and things like that. And then through my research, continuous research, I said, wait a second, a lot of people who were doing it, making it big, were sort of, they had a unique skill, something that they were doing that they could provide that probably not a lot of people could provide, a service that was missing in the industry, that they saw like this gap and they went to fill in the gap. And
Yeah.
so that caused me to do a lot of introspection and figure out, okay, what I'm doing right now, online clothing store, is not anything different or special. There's so many platforms, but
Yes.
what am I good at? So once I saw that, I had to look into my own talents and my own skills and not look at what was hot and running that I didn't really like. Why would I go into something that I'm not passionate about? That's not my why, that's not my reasons. And so it led me to my books. And from my books, I just saw a whole, open opportunity of many different pathways. I became a public speaker, I became a publisher, I became an illustrator. I became all different sorts of things
Hmm.
because of me seeking that, self reflection to say, what am I good at? What are the talents that I have? What can I bring to the table that is different, diverse, but still my own? That I can still target people in my community, in my environment, that I can really help. And that's what kind of got me on my path to being an author.
I absolutely love that because you see, your why, when your why is so big, it's gonna scare you, it's gonna excite you, it's
Yeah,
gonna push you, you
yeah,
know?
it's really.
And I think that this is also kind of why, with the Little Bean Foundation,
Hmm.
me creating this Little Bean Foundation was so important. Not even just for the books, but for the message itself. Bringing awareness to miscarriages, not
Mm,
even just miscarriages, but pregnancy and infant loss completely.
yeah.
And why I do bring up miscarriages is because I went through a miscarriage,
Hmm.
right? But pregnancy and infant loss is what I wanted people to understand, what I wanted people to see. Um, that yes, not every pregnancy is successful, you know? And it even hurts my soul to say something like that,
Hmm.
right? But we expect to have 9 months completely good. You're once you're pregnant, you think about it, you're like, okay, 9 months I'm gonna have this baby.
Mhm.
And sometimes it doesn't actually happen that way, right? And I feel like that is what motivated me actually holding my son,
Mhm.
right? Holding my son, seeing his face, seeing the smile on his face after I'm giving birth to him. He didn't make it, right? But I'm looking at him and I'm like, oh my gosh, you were here, you lived. Your smile is telling me that everything is going to be okay, you know? Your smile is telling me that life is going to be okay,
Mhm.
you know? I still have purpose here. I still have reason to go. And I think that that is also another reason why you need to say hello to action
Mhm.
because you're still here. You're
Mhm.
still
You're
here.
still
You
here.
still
You're
have
still
purpose.
alive. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's taken me to so many leaps of everything, connections, being able to connect and open up with other people who are allowing me to give them the awareness, to give them the knowledge, to give them the courage to speak up, to give them a voice, right? And often in times, you see, just even that is why some people can't even say hello to action, is because they aren't allowed to have that voice. They
Yeah.
aren't allowed to have that platform. They aren't allowed to, voice their opinions or even share their story. And that is something that I think is so important, is to share your story, tell your story always, 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 always. Because you don't know who you can connect with. You don't know who can bring you to an opportunity of doors and love and light and luck. You don't know. You
Mhm.
don't know who you can talk to today that's gonna bring you to the next level. And I think that's why it's so important to say hello to action.
Yeah. You must say hello to action. I love that, and you can see that when you have a big why, a meaning, a
Yeah.
purpose. When you find your purpose,
Yeah.
when you find the thing that drives your soul, you
Yeah.
feel like you're just floating in it, and you're
Yeah.
floating so beautifully in it because it's where you're meant to be. And so a lot of times where it's hard for us to take action because we're really not passionate. We haven't found our purpose.
Yeah.
We want to
Yeah.
do this, but we're not unsure and we're not
Mhm.
this. And it shows, and it helps us to, it keeps us stagnant, or it keeps us like hot and cold about it. Oh, I like
Exactly.
it today or I don't like it tomorrow. How do you say hello to action? For me, saying hello to action is also accepting that I may fail,
Yes.
because the
Yes.
failures that you could possibly have to
Mhm.
endure,
Mhm.
just thinking about it, okay, what if this doesn't work out? Okay, what if I public speak and I don't remember what I have to say, which has happened to me before, by the way.
Yes.
I was I was speaking at a live event, and I lost my train of thought. And things like that could make you feel like, well, maybe this isn't meant for me. But
Mhm.
I was at a place where I know that I'm learning, I know that I'm growing, and I couldn't let the thought of possible failures, not even
Yes.
failures that has happened, but possible failures, cause inaction. And
Yes.
this is why I have to say sometimes our fear and fear of failures is what keeps us limited in the first place. We just never bother to say hello to action because of the possibility that we might fail.
Yes. And I think even just to touch on that base too, some people are just so overcome by it, right? So overcome. It's like they're floating, they're drowning.
By
They're
failure.
drowning in
Hmm.
it.
Hmm.
Those ideas that you have, you know, those words that you've written, those words that you want to speak, those ideas that are just floating in your head are gone just because of fear. And I
Hmm.
think, it's something that you have to embrace, accept, allow to happen, because you don't know what lesson you are going to learn because of it, or what lesson is actually going to show you that, okay, because of this failure today, it's going to be a success later on. I turn it completely around. I make it into something that is so beyond me, because I was able to endure that failure and turn it into a positive. There are so many times where I failed. So many times I've allowed myself to go into, different things all the time, and that's okay. But I had to embrace it. I had to look at me and say, okay, you know what? This is how it's going to be. This is what happened. It didn't work. All right, what's next? How can I try again? You know, Especially even in your books. Sometimes you make an error in the book. You don't even notice it, but somebody notices it. You take that and you say, okay, I have time to correct the book. It's okay. Yes, it's embarrassing at first, but you can correct it. And that's okay. That's all right.
And
Say
I
hello to action.
Yeah, exactly. Say hello to, and I think a big part of like that, what you're saying is that we have to be easier on ourselves in that we're
Yes,
learning. Just
we're
keep telling
learning.
yourself that, okay,
Mhm.
I'm going to take a step, I'm going to take some action. But if I fail or if anything happens, it's okay. Like tell yourself that it's okay as long as you
Yeah.
don't give up because you do learn from the process. But I
Mhm.
also think is that how hard we can be on ourselves
Oh,
and
yes.
how disappointing we can even be in our own selves is what's
Yes.
going to consistently keep us stagnant in our
Yes.
growth in everything that we're doing because we're just not perfect.
Yeah.
You're not an
That's it.
expert right away, guys. You become an expert through trial and error, through failures. You become an expert. That's how you become an expert. That's how you
Yes.
master any craft. And like you were saying, I made so many mistakes with my books in my life, with publishing things like that. But it's fine tuned my skills so swift. Like
Mm-hmm.
my first book compared to my new books coming up, people are gonna be like, "Oh, I figured out a way to master different things and do different things and grow as well." But I learned a lot of lessons the hard way. But I'm proud of myself for not giving up. And
Exactly.
so despite the fears, guys, you take that step
Going.
and you keep moving. You know,
Yes.
that's what I have to say about that. Saying hello to action means that you have to dare to be brave, dare to be fearless, dare
Yes.
to be wrong,
Exactly.
and dare to have people say, "Oh no, she failed," and then you say, "And then what?
And what? Yeah.
And what? What did you do?
Exactly.
What dreams did
And
you go
start
after?"
failing.
At least I
Exactly.
tried. Just have your
And that's another important thing. At least you try.
yeah.
You try. I think that that could be actually our last point because some people don't even try, my dear.
Hmm.
Some people are standing there, they're watching you, they're laughing in your face, talking about, oh, you failed a number of times. But you're right. What did you do? What did you do with the time that you had?
Yeah.
We both have 24 hours in a day. And I was able to create more, or you were able to create more
Yeah.
today, right? But again, we both have that same 24 hours. It's just what do you do with that 24 hours?
And now
You
you
know?
know what not to do. So you're at a better place than you were the day before because now you
Yes.
have more knowledge, more research on what to do. And I think like you're saying, as we're saying to close, I know for some people, like we just gave sort of general ideas of some of the things that helped us to say hello to action to some of our goals. But if
Yes.
you're looking for like points, we know that there are some people out there who you take your notepad, you take your pencil, and you want to know certain points. I guess I'll start off by saying if you have a dream or idea like Onisha did, write it down.
Yeah.
Write down your
Write it
ideas,
down.
put it down on paper, write it
Yes.
down. And
Do your
then, um,
research.
yeah,
Do
so
your
put your ideas down, get your ideas down on something and date it, put a date on it. That's
Yes.
really good.
That's
Put a date on
important.
your ideas. And then sort of research about the field or the sector of business that your idea would be falling into. And
Exactly.
then see, go to Google, go to research. How can I do this? How can I start this business? So what do I need to get started? Or what type of products I need to get started on my store? Things like that. And then you look around your community for resources. Is there a mentor, someone who's doing this that I can trust, that I can ask, can you guide me? Can you help me? you know
Yes.
and then you start looking at your resources, your budget, because you've already acquired the information to sort of figure out how much it would cost, how much you would
Yeah.
need. Do I have anything saved up? Do I need to go
Yes.
to the bank? What can I do to get this off the ground? And
Mm-hmm.
once you sort of get those ideas, you lay down a goal setting strategy,
Yes.
everything you
Yes.
need to do until your business is up and running.
Yes.
And goal setting tips, all that kind of stuff, we're all about that. You can follow both of us on our pages and find goal setting tips. But I find like once you have your idea and you
Mm-hmm.
research your sector, what's required, what's necessary, you
Yes.
jot down all the steps that you need to do to get to that final goal, which is have your store up and running, and you
Yes.
break those big goals into smaller goals and you attack them one step at a time. Every step matters. If you need a goal success coach, hit me up. I'm a Goal
Okay.
Success Coach. You can get me after. If you need a life coach, hit up Onisha Parrott Lewis. She's a life coach. We are definitely here to help you.
Yes.
So I've enjoyed this
Wonderful.
conversation.
I'm just gonna add just one little last thing is just also look inward. Look at
Hmm.
yourself. What is my why? Why am I doing what I'm doing? Why? What is your why? I think that is so important because, as you just said, your why was so important to you, your son. And my son was so important to me that I was able to create so much from it.
The Green Foundation. Hmm.
Mhm. There's so much different things, right? And when you look inward and you allow yourself to be gentle with yourself, you're going to be able to push yourself forward through just being, sensitive to yourself, saying positive affirmations. They don't always work. I'm going to be honest because sometimes the negative talk does overcome. But if you just keep doing that every day, you may be able to actually train your mind to be better than your negative talk. All right,
Hmm.
guys?
Hmm.
Thank you so much for joining in this beautiful conversation. Thank you, Latoya. You're amazing.
Oh, thank
Say hello to action. Don't hold back. You guys got this. Let's go for the next episode. We can't wait to see you again.
you.
Take
Bye,
care.
guys.
Bye.